I was cleaning my husband's childhood home while my Mill sat on the couch drinking wine. "You're the help," she said, flicking her ashes on the floor. My husband said, "Don't talk back to my mother." I said nothing then. But I spent the next 3 weeks gathering what I needed for the night I burned it all down. My name's Ray. I'm 37 years old. I've lived in Wisconsin all my life, mostly around the Madison area. I was married to Ellen for 7 years. No kids. Back then, we said we were trying. Truth is, I stopped wanting a baby with him about 3 years in. I just didn't want to admit it. Now, I'm thankful every single day that I never brought a child into that family. This happened last fall. I lost my job at a local accounting firm. They said it was cutbacks, but I knew it was because my boss didn't like that I kept pointing out his creative accounting. Whatever. I wasn't going to fight it. At the time, Alan said it was fine. He'd just gotten promoted and said we'd manage. 2 weeks later, he told me we needed to move in with his mother, just for a bit. I didn't want to. I never wanted to live in that house. I had been there a few times for holidays and it was always awful. His mom, Diane, looked at me like I was trash from the minute we met. She once told me I reminded her of those girls who work at gas stations and think they're classy because they wear mascara. I was a certified accountant, but that didn't matter. I wasn't from the right family. I didn't dress like she did. I didn't use the right silverware. Still, Alan convinced me. He said it would be temporary. He said he needed me to trust him. He even cried when I hesitated. I gave in. The house was already falling apart. His dad had died a few years back, and Diane had stopped taking care of the place. The roof leaked. The carpet stank. She smoked inside, and the walls were yellow with it. I told myself I could handle it. That it was just for a little while. The very first morning, I woke up early and started cleaning the kitchen. Diane came in around 9 a.m. with a wine glass in one hand and a cigarette in the other. She watched me wipe the counters for a second, then just dropped the wine glass on the floor. On purpose. "Oops," she said, not even looking at the mess. "Clean it up. You're the help now." I froze. I looked at her, waiting for her to laugh or say she was joking. She didn't. She turned around and walked back to the living room like I was a damn maid. Alan was upstairs on a work call. I didn't say anything. I cleaned it up. I told myself she was just being bitter. Lonely. Maybe she'd warm up. She didn't. Every day for the next week, she found new ways to treat me like garbage. One day, I was scrubbing the bathtub when she came in smoking, and flicked her ashes right into the water I was using. I snapped a little. I said, "Do you mind?" She smiled. "If you're going to be a housewife, you better learn how to serve." That night at dinner, I told Alan. I told him everything. He didn't even look up from his plate. "Don't talk back to my mother," he said. That's it. No defense. No care. Just that. Like I was a kid being scolded. Something broke inside me that night. Not loudly. Quietly. Deeply. That's when I started planning. Not revenge, exactly. Not yet. Just a way out. But the more I learned, the worse it got. Over the next 3 weeks, I played the role. I cleaned. I cooked. I nodded when Diane insulted me. I even laughed at her jokes. But at night, I snooped. I went through their drawers, their files, their computers. And I found everything. I found Alan's emails to his ex. I found out he was sending her money from our joint account. Thousands. He called it helping her out. But in the emails, they talked about meeting up again. About what could have been. And Diane knew. She encouraged it. I found one email from her to Alan saying, "Don't ruin your marriage, just be discreet. A man needs options." My stomach turned. I also found the deed to the house. Turns out Alan never finalized the title transfer after his dad passed. Legally, the property was still in a weird limbo. Diane didn't own it. And neither did Alan. It was vulnerable. I took photos of everything. I printed emails. I copied files onto a USB. I even recorded Diane one afternoon while she was drunk, calling me useless garbage and saying, "You're only here because I let you be." I mailed it all to my sister in Madison, just in case anything happened to me. She didn't know the details, but she trusted me. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do yet. But I knew I wasn't going to just walk away. And I knew this, they thought I was weak. They thought I'd never fight back. They were wrong. 3 days after I mailed the USB and the files to my sister, Diane accused me of stealing. It was early morning. I was making coffee. She stormed into the kitchen in her robe, barefoot, hair a mess. She looked at me like I'd broken into her house. "Where's my necklace?" she snapped. "The gold one. The one from my mother." I blinked. "What?" "Don't play stupid," she hissed. "I had it in the drawer. It's gone. You're the only one who touches things around here." I looked at Alan. He was on the couch with his laptop, pretending not to hear. "You really think I'd steal from you?" I asked, my voice low. She smirked. "You're desperate. Jobless. Pathetic. I wouldn't put anything past you." I turned to Alan. "Seriously?" He didn't even look at me. "Just give it back, Ray. Let's not make this worse than it has to be." I almost laughed. But it wasn't funny. It was clear now, they wanted me gone. Diane was making things up, and Alan was letting her. Maybe even helping. That day, I made a decision. No more waiting. That night, I drove to Madison while they slept. I told my sister everything. She was furious. She gave me a spare bedroom, told me I could stay as long as I wanted. But I said no. I was going back. Not to stay. To finish it. The next day, I walked into a lawyer's office. I showed her the deed, the emails, the recordings. She was shocked. Said I had more than enough for a case. Then I went to the police. I didn't expect them to act fast. But when I showed them the financial records, Alan taking money from our joint account and giving it to another woman, it got their attention. A detective called me 2 days later. They were opening an investigation into Alan. Fraud. Misuse of marital assets. They were also interested in Diane's messages, especially the ones about encouraging the behavior and hiding it. While the case was starting to move, I kept going back to the house during the day. Diane hated it. Alan didn't say much. I was like a ghost to them. I didn't fight. I didn't yell. I just smiled. Polite. Quiet. Dead calm. They didn't know I was talking to a real estate developer behind their backs. One afternoon, I sat across the street and watched 2 men in suits walk through the house with a clipboard. Diane was watching from the window, confused. Alan didn't come out. Maybe he already knew something was wrong. A week later, I got a call from the police. They were going to press charges against Alan. That night, I came home late. Diane was drunk again. Alan was red-faced and pacing. "You bitch," he said. "You called the cops on me?" I said nothing. "You're trying to ruin my life over some emails?" "No," I said quietly. "I'm ruining your life because you let your mother treat me like dirt, because you stole from me, and because you stopped being my husband the day you chose her over me." He moved like he might hit me. But he didn't. He just stood there, breathing heavy. I walked right past him, packed my bags, and left. But I wasn't done. Because the sale hadn't gone through yet. And Diane still thought she owned that house. 2 days after I left, Diane showed up at my sister's door. I hadn't told her where I was. Which meant Alan did. She was wearing a fur-lined coat, sunglasses, and that same smug expression like she was still in control. She pushed past my sister and stormed into the living room. "You think you're clever?" she said, tossing an envelope onto the table. "You're nothing. That house will never be yours. I opened the envelope. It was a copy of a new will. Dated 2 days ago. She claimed Alan's father had left the house to her, and that they were getting it certified. I stared at her. This won't work, I said. You're faking documents now? She just smiled. Who's going to believe you over me? She left without another word. The next day, I called the lawyer. She laughed when she saw the will. Said it was obvious forgery. Wrong notary signature, wrong formatting, and the dates didn't line up with the father's death records. Still, Diane was clearly trying to scramble and make a last-minute grab before the legal system took hold. That same week, Alan's fraud case moved forward. A court date was set. And to my surprise, his ex, the one he'd been sending money to, contacted me. She said she'd had no idea he was married. Claimed Alan told her we were separated, that I was unstable. When she found out the truth, she was furious. She offered to testify. That changed everything. The DA added charges. More serious ones. Alan tried to claim I forged the transfers, but the timestamps and IP addresses didn't lie. It was all him. And then came the twist I didn't expect, the real estate developer I'd spoken to? He backed out. Said he'd gotten a call from Diane. She threatened to sue for emotional distress if he moved forward. I guess she figured throwing legal words around would scare someone. But the lawyer had a different idea. Rent the house out, she said. If we can't sell it yet, get tenants in there. Use the money to pay for the legal costs. And make it hell for her. I did. I rented it to a group of young musicians. The kind who play loud music, throw small parties, leave beer bottles on the porch. Legally, Diane couldn't do anything. She didn't own the house. She couldn't evict them. She couldn't stop it. She called me almost every night. You're ruining my life, she'd scream. This is harassment. I said the same thing every time. No. This is payback. But I still wasn't done. Because one day, while digging through old county property records, the lawyer found something else. A second clause in the old deed. A missing signature. Something that meant the property might technically still be part of Alan's father's estate. Which opened the door for something big. If the court ruled in our favor, we could claim full control, and retroactively charge Diane for misusing the property for personal gain. Utilities, improvements, rent collection, she could owe thousands. We filed the motion. And while we waited for the court date, Diane's world started to shrink. Alan wasn't talking to her anymore. His ex had filed a restraining order. The cops were circling closer. And every day she had to listen to a drum kit thumping through the floorboards of the house she thought she ruled. But I still had one card left to play. And I was saving it for the final blow. The court date finally came. I walked into the courtroom with my lawyer and a binder full of everything I had gathered. Emails, bank records, deed copies, video clips, audio recordings. I had it all organized. Alan was there. He looked thinner. His eyes were hollow. His lawyer sat beside him, whispering something he wasn't hearing. Diane sat behind him, wearing a navy suit and cheap pearls. She looked angry. Not scared, angry. Like she still thought she'd win. The judge took his time reviewing everything. It dragged out for hours. Alan's side tried to argue that I had been vindictive and manipulative, but the evidence didn't lie. The financial abuse. The forged will. The fraud. The threats. And then my lawyer dropped the final piece. That second clause in the deed, the one we found by digging through old county files? The judge ruled it made the original ownership transfer invalid. Alan had no claim. Diane had no claim. The estate was in limbo for years. Under Wisconsin law, with no proper succession and no full probate, and no legal contest by Alan's side until after I filed, the court granted me full administrative control. Which meant I owned the house. And everything inside it. Diane lost it. She screamed, stood up in the courtroom, and called the judge corrupt. She had to be removed by security. Alan just sat there, head down, hands shaking. 2 weeks later, Alan was sentenced. 18 months in state prison for fraud and misuse of marital assets. Probation for 2 more. Diane wasn't charged, yet, but the judge opened a separate investigation into her based on the forged documents and threats. The very next day, I changed the locks on the house. Diane came by screaming, pounding on the door. One of the tenants called the cops. She was issued a trespass warning. I sold every item inside. All the antique furniture, the paintings, the jewelry she had left behind when she got kicked out. She tried to sue me for it. My lawyer reminded her, she wasn't on the deed. Not then. Not ever. And since the court gave me full ownership, it was all mine. I took the money from the sales and used it to pay off every bit of debt Alan had left me with. Then I sold the house. But not to a family. Not to a quiet couple. I sold it to a non-profit that houses women leaving abusive homes. They turned it into a shelter. The same living room where Diane used to sit and drink wine while I scrubbed floors? Now it's filled with toys and warm blankets and women trying to heal. Diane moved into a low-rent apartment 30 minutes away. I heard she had to get a job at a grocery store. The same woman who said I looked like gas station trash now wears a name tag and scans coupons. Alan tried to contact me once from prison. He wrote a letter. Said he was sorry. That he didn't realize what he was doing. That Diane had pushed him into it. That he missed me. I didn't reply. I burned the letter in the sink, the same way Diane used to flick her ashes on my clean floors. As for me, I started over. I used the rest of the house sale money to open a cleaning business in Madison. It's successful. People respect me. I set my own prices, my own hours. I've hired 2 other women. One of them? She used to live in that shelter. I don't trust easily now. I don't love quickly. But I know this, I will never be anyone's help again. And I will never let someone flick ashes in my face without burning their entire world down in return. Because when they buried me, they forgot, I wasn't the dirt. I was the fire.